Hey now, it's Saturday, January 21st, and we are on to the final of the E's, and that is Buck Ewing. Most casual collectors do not know who Buck Ewing is. He died in 1906 at age 41, very young, very young. But here's an answer to a great trivia question. Who was the first catcher inducted into Cooperstown? And that would be none other than Mr. Buck Ewing. So you would think passing at such a young age and so well before people started collecting autographs, his autograph would be nearly impossible. And you can argue maybe it is, but it's out there. They do exist. We're going to get to that in a little bit. And believe it or not one, not two, not three, but four examples have come to the market. I don't want to say recently. Three have been fairly recently since I've been collecting, and a fourth one entered not long before that. But you'll see what the prices are. So unless you're made of buco bucks, which I am not, I would not plan on adding a Buck Ewing into your autograph collection anytime in the near future. So without any further ado, let's take a look at the first catcher inducted into Cooperstown, none other than Mr. William Buck Ewing. So let's start the PSA database. Now, we're going to get to this in a second, and there's a whole story regarding this find, and we'll look what. So in about 2017, Memory Lane Auctions acquired a bunch of documents from the Players League, and this was one of the documents from the Player League. And this had not only Buck Ewing in it, it had Tim Keefe in it, which I got mine from, and it had John Montgomery Ward. Three turn-of-the-century Hall of Famers all died way before the collecting of autographs became popular. So, but that allowed two new Ewing autographs into the market. Now, if we keep going here, this check, I have never seen this check. Many people, I know the history of this check. Many people believe this check was stolen. Whether or not it was, I don't know. You just have to be careful. It's a long story. I won't get into this, but if you see my videos regarding stolen documents, many people believe this was stolen from Cooperstown. It was part of the Cincinnati Reds collection. And finally, we keep going, and we're going to get to this autograph right here. And if you notice, this is from a player's ledger. We're going to talk about it a little bit more in a minute. But this came very similar to we talked about the Memory Lane find. This was from Tim Keefe's personal collection. He had a ledger of the Players League as it was going down. And not only did Buck Ewing sign this, you had some other rare Hall of Famers. Tim Keefe, you can see right below is Roger Connor that we've already gone over. And I think Montgomery Ward John Ward was in this, and finally Jim O'Rourke was in it as well. So like four or five nearly impossible Hall of Famers all signed this player ledger. So if we go to the individual, we were talking about this player ledger right here. So this was sold in like 2008, and you can see it went for $90,000. Like, that's a lot of money. You're getting some very rare autographs. Don't get me wrong, but like obviously $90,000 is expensive to anyone. Again, we're going to the next one right here. This was sold. Louisville Slugger basically unloaded their vault many years ago before I started collecting. And in it, you could see one of them is they had a letter signed by Buck Ewing right here. It's on a beautiful letterhead from Louisville Slugger bats. And you could see this sold, I want to say in like 2008. You can see it sold for $41,000. And again, this is probably at this time, there were only probably two or three Buck Ewing autographs known whatsoever. And so then moving on, this lot sold this year, believe it or not. Sorry, last year, I should say. And so Stoneham, the Giants owner's family, released all these very rare signed stock certificates into the public, and one of them was signed by Buck Ewing. But as you can see right here, they thought 10 to 15,000. I thought maybe I could even be a player in that, maybe. But you can see it went for $35,000 just for Buck Ewing. Like, that's how rare he is and how desirable he is. Now, moving on, we talked about the memory lane. So this is another document. Again, this was stock certificate signed by four players. Two of them, obviously, Buck Ewing, we talked about, very rare. The other one being Tim Keefe. And this sold, beautiful example, and this sold for $50,000. So we're going to go to one more, and this is the last one I know about that sold. And this is kind of interesting. If we just go down, I don't know if I can go down or not, just zoom in. I guess we can't really see, but if you want to look at this, what's interesting about this, I'm trying to get to it, but unfortunately I can't. It was only signed in pencil with the last name Ewing. And he wrote all this out, and he signed his last name, but it's only signed Ewing. Unfortunately, I can't get it down anymore, and I apologize for that. But if you would notice, oh, here we go. Bear with me. You can You can see right here, it just says Ewing at the bottom. And this by itself, just with the Ewing, last name only in pencil, sold for $14,000. So maybe more come to the surface. I don't know. I don't plan on adding a Buck Ewing ever, honestly, to my collection. It's nice to know that at least they're out there. It's not technically impossible, but realistically, it ain't happening anytime soon. So that's it for the E's. We're going to move to the F's. The first one, if you look on an alphabetical list, is Red Faber. I did Red Faber like a long time ago. If you go back, you'll see it's one of the first ones I ever did. So I'm going to move on to a very rare name, so probably one of the most common names of my childhood growing up, and that is Bob Feller. So until then, as always, keep collecting.